of Culture, Youth, Sports and Community Development. Senator the Honorable Oscar George, Minister of State in the Ministry of Culture, Youth, Sports and Community Development. Other members of Cabinet, Cabinet Secretary, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Culture, Youth, Sports and Community Development, Mrs. Wyke, Mr. Matthew Carrett, Project Manager, Basic Needs Trust Fund, other members of staff of the Ministry of Culture, Youth, Sports and Community Development, members of staff of the BNTF project, members of the media, listeners and viewers, good morning. Please excuse my voice this morning. I'm battling a cough, a lingering flu. So welcome to another in our series of press conferences focused on the many Government of Dominica projects and initiatives which are ongoing. Today our main focus are the projects ongoing as part of the Basic Needs Trust Fund, BNTF 10. We will first hear from the Honorable Minister and then from Mr. Carrett from the BNTF. So please welcome the Honorable Greta Roberts to address you.
I was about to say there's no clap. Good morning, everyone. Let me, of course, recognize the presence of my colleague minister, Honorable Oscar George, Minister of State in the Ministry of Culture, Youth, Sports and Community Development, Honorable Kozia Frederick. We also have the Cabinet Secretary, Ms. Karen Prevost, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Culture, Youth, Sports and Community Development, Ms. Letitia Lestrade-Wyke, Mr. Matthew Carrett, Project Manager of the Basic Needs Trust Fund, the staff of the Basic Needs Trust Fund, our local government commissioner, who else? Okay, the media, listening and viewing public, a blessed day to you all. I am very happy to be here this morning because I consider the Ministry of Culture, Youth, Sports and Community Development to be a people's ministry. We serve almost every citizen across the length and breadth of Dominica. We are made up of 9 departments, so to have a press conference on the Ministry of Culture, that would take us about 2 days to complete. So today we are focusing strictly on the work of BNTF and our progress so far with our BNTF 10 projects. The Basic Needs Trust Fund is a grant program jointly funded by the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, and the Government of Dominica. This program is considered a flagship project for the Caribbean Development Bank, and this started in Dominica over 40 years ago. The program is being implemented in Dominica, but we also have BNTF in 8 other countries, to include Jamaica, Belize, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines, Suriname, and Guyana, and Montserrat. BNTF, which of course falls under our ministry, is the implementing agency, and it seeks to provide resources to communities in order to improve access to basic public services and to reduce social vulnerabilities. The overall objective, of course, of the program is to improve access to quality education and training, water and sanitation, basic community access and drainage, human resource development, and livelihood enhancement. And all these projects undertaken are endorsed and approved by Cabinet. The staff of BNTF, all of them who are here, they hard-working staff. We have a staff of 6, if I'm not mistaken, the project manager, Mr. Carrett, the community liaison officer, or monitoring and evaluation officers, the project engineers, the administrative and accounting officer, and of course, our secretary. We also have a BNTF oversight entity, and this comprises of representatives from various relevant local divisions, groups, and organizations who hold monthly meetings and conduct site visits whenever necessary, just to ensure that the projects are progressing satisfactorily. From inception to now, in Dominica, we have completed 9 programs under BNTF, and we are into our 10th program. So when you hear of BNTF 10 and BNTF 9, it's considered a program. So this year, we are looking at BNTF 10, currently in progress. For BNTF 10, the Central Development Bank approved an amount of Eastern Caribbean dollars, I'll take my time to call this one, $6,572,233 for the implementation of the projects that we have on stream. For these projects implemented, CDB gives a grant contribution of 95% of the total cost, and the government of Dominica provides a counterpart amount of 5%. But in addition, the government also makes the payment of the 15% VAT on the entire budget allocation and on the consultancy fees. So for BNTF 10, if you would like to hear, the government has to provide a total of $328,612, and in addition, pay the VAT on the total allocation. Presently, we have 6 projects ongoing island-wide, and the terminal disbursement date for these projects to facilitate completion is September 30th, 2025. We have the Pay Bush Water Enhancement Project. This is being executed by DOASCO at a cost of $2,167,750. The project includes the construction of a 60,000-gallon water tank and a new chlorinator building, as well as improved access to the tank and the chlorinator building. This project will improve the overall efficiency and reliability of the Paybush water system and increase the level of storage and distribution network in Moorpark and the Lillette areas. The next project is the Daly's playing field upgrade and grassing of the entire playing field, and this is being done by the Regional Contractors Incorporated, and this comes at a cost of $703,353.42 and an additional $259,251. So the total cost of the project is $962,604.42. We also have the Berean Christian Academy Extension, our 3rd project, being done by Sorrell Consulting Limited at a cost of $439,314.38. This project includes the expansion of the existing school infrastructure, which is located at Buffet State. Additional classrooms are also being built to allow for their early childhood program. This, at the present stage, is about 98% complete. The Grand Bay Dubic Multipurpose Facility, our 4th project, contractor Sorrell Consulting Limited. The project comes at a cost of $776,449.90, and it also consists of the complete rehabilitation of the resource center. This too is at 98% completion. Our 5th project, the Trafalgar Basketball Facility Upgrade, being undertaken by Regional Contractors Limited at a cost of $314,477.76. It includes the covering and upgrade of an indoor basketball facility to include fencing of the court, erection of a main gate, construction of a retaining wall, repair of basketball rims, pavilion stands, etc. In addition to this upgrade, there will also be the upgrade and lighting of the head court. And we have the Clifton Back Road refurbishment, which is being done by regional contractors, of course in Clifton, at a cost of $223,806.01. The water tank and drip irrigation system was also added to our BNTF 10 projects. So it's another project that will come in soon and is expected to be at an approved cost of $223,806 and ranging of 1 cent too. In addition to these projects though, another project which was approved and has been approved is the Soufriere Scott's Head Village Fish Processing Facility. The project includes the construction of a fish processing plant and the purchase of equipment. Upon completion, this facility will provide opportunities for clean, cut, smoked, and vacuumed packed fish for both local and foreign markets. We have begun the procurement of equipment for this project, and tendering is out. The actual construction of the facility will take place under BNTF 11, although it's already pre-approved. The BNTF manager, I keep looking at him because he has all the details, so he will provide us with an update on the projects as they are presently. And in the meantime, just to let everybody know, the listening public, that we have begun discussions for our BNTF 11 projects, so that when CDB approves the funds for BNTF 11, we will be at an advanced stage in the selection of these projects. And just to let you know that the CDB team will be in Dominica by this afternoon. They should be already on their way. And we would have them this week to check on the projects that are in progress at this time, and we will see how well we have been progressing on the BNTF 10. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Our thanks to the Honorable Minister. Of course, BNTF is something of a household name in Dominica, but we never really are privy to the details. So thank you, Minister, for that important information. At this point, I'd like to invite Mr. Matthew Carrott. He's the project manager of the Basic Needs Trust Fund, and he will provide us with even further details of the ongoing projects.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So let me start by acknowledging Honorable Greta Roberts, Minister for Culture, Youth, Sports and Community Development. So we have Senator Oscar George, who is the Junior Minister, the Ministry of Culture, Youth, Sports and Community Development. So we have Honorable Kozia Frederick here, Cabinet Secretary, Ms. Prevost, PS, Permanent Secretary, Letitia Lestrat-Wyke, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Culture, Youth, Sports and Community Development. So we have Mr. Tuse here, Mr. Glenroy Tuse, who is the Local Government Commissioner, and also is a member of our steering committee, now called the Oversight Entity. And I just want to publicly recognize all the efforts of the staff who are with me. So we have already were mentioned, but to just let you know who they are. So we have Mr. Alexis George, who is our project engineer. You have Mrs. Karen Rivia Coffee, the Monitoring and Evaluation Officer. And then you have my namesake, Miss Joanna Carrot, the lady in red who is the Committee Liaison Officer, and these staff, they provide, invaluable support to the work that BNTF does, because they're the ones, who are out on the field, the face of the community, and the work that they do. I say it is invaluable. Just to mention that two of the staff, the Committee Liaison Officer and the Monitoring and Evaluation Officer, joined us less than a year ago. So we started young, but energetic and full of passion. And I'll say that without any reservations, and I truly appreciate the support, that they have been to BNTF. Before I get, more into more details of, the BNTF 10, which our Honorable Minister alluded to, I think it is important, that we understand, a little more of the basic nature of sport, because the truth is sometimes, you talk to some persons and they are BNTF, but what really is BNTF, and the operations of BNTF? The minister, ably explained, what BNTF is all about, so I will not go into that, but how does BNTF function? I mean, how does BNTF operate? It is important that we know, a little more about BNTF. When it started BNTF in 1979 after Hurricane David, I was looking at some of the projects, that's long before my time, BNTF 1. A lot of the work was rehabilitation works following the passage of Hurricane David. So I'm looking at my list just to give you an idea of some of the projects that were done under BNTF 1, 79. So you'd have things like the Wesley Primary School rehabilitation, you have Dodan Primary School, you have the Newton School, Massac Primary School, for starters, St. Joseph Martin Health Center, you have Calibish Water Supply, Atkinson Water Supply. So these are just a few. I'm not going to all the projects that were done under BNTF, but that is just when it started. And then we went into BNTF 2. And then, again, to give you an idea, we have the Newton Primary School Extension, you have the PT7 Primary School, Dubla Primary School Extension, Marigot Junior Primary School, and you have Massac and Clifton Health Center. And then when you get into BNTF 3, just give you a feel of what was done in Dominica. You'd have projects like the Fokole Health Clinic, the Bellevue Chope Road, and the Monjon Primary School. Just to give a feel of some of the projects. So this is 1 to 3, and as was mentioned, we are now into 10 and going on to 11. The project has evolved over the years. So what started simply as, or merely as, renovation works following the passage of Hurricane David. And there's a lot to be done because we all know the devastation that was caused, by Hurricane David. So the first 3 phases really focus a lot on renovation work, repairs, for the most part. But then, as was mentioned, it is considered CDB's flagship poverty reduction program. So CDB saw the need to have greater involvement of the communities in the projects. So from BNTF 5, the whole focus shifted from what is considered the top-down approach, where most of the projects were projects which came from government, to what is referred to as the bottoms-up approach. And the bank uses the fancy term, the participatory approach to community development. They use those fancy words, socially inclusive, and all those nice terms that the social scientists use. But the idea of that was to have great empowerment from the community. And what has been echoed over and over again, if persons are not in it from the inception, it is not difficult to go and ask them to maintain. Because the comment was always, when they started the project, we are not involved. And then when things go bad, they want us to be involved. So the bank recognized this and said, let the community be part from the inception, identification stage. So as such, from BNTF 5, a new creature, for want of a better expression, was started, and that was referred to as the project monitoring committees. So for each project, there's what they call a project monitoring committee, and for short we say PMC. And as the name implies, that is what it's there for. And it is made up of, persons, influential persons, interested persons, and also persons who are able to give the time from the communities. So often you'd see members of, say, of the village council, like local government. If it's a sports program, you see persons from the sports association, or some village improvement committee. These are the persons. And they play a very pivotal role because they serve as the gap between us at the BNTF office and the wider community. So the PMC, and I will tell you from all my experiences, they do take their role very, very seriously. They take it very seriously. And they appreciate the fact that they're involved from the inception. So that gets into the project monitoring committee. Just to give an idea of what is involved in BNTF. Yes, you see all the projects and you see like when we have handing overs, but the bank, Caribbean Development Bank, is very meticulous in its approach. Very, very meticulous. There are procedures, and at every step of the way, all the procedures, have to be followed. And from all my experience with the bank doesn't compromise its procedures. I'll tell you that much. So, yeah. So, how do we start with BNTF? We start off requesting applications from community groups, village councils, sporting organizations, line ministries, members of cabinet. So any of these persons, they can submit proposals to the BNTF office. They come to us, and we process them at the office. And then we mentioned the oversight entity. All projects coming to us, they have to go to the oversight entity. They meet, they discuss, they screen. And just to say that for BNTF 10, when we were starting the process for BNTF 10, I will tell you that we got close to 100 applications for BNTF 10. That's a lot of applications, a lot. So that just shows that there's a pipeline of good projects waiting. But like everything else, we are governed by money, by a budget. And just to add that over the past few years, the cost of material has increased tremendously. One of the reasons being the war in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine. The price of steel and lumber has greatly increased, and that has affected the cost of the product. So for all the products that the Honorable Minister ably mentioned, in each case, we have to get additional funds to these projects. So that is why, that we mentioned, Sufria, which has been deferred to BNTF 11, So some of the funds savings from that project had to augment the cost of the others. Otherwise, as the bank said directly, until we are certain where the additional funds were coming from, there will not be implementation of the BNTF. So we had to demonstrate to them, well, if we are transferring or postponing BNTF 211, Sufria, then there are savings, so we could give 100,000 to the release, 200,000 to bury, and this kind of thing. And until that was done, the bank would not would not approve the contract. So it is that specific. Yeah. When the committee gets projects, and I just give the example of BNTF 10. So we started with 100 projects. There are some projects which do not qualify for BNTF. Private projects, the bank will not fund this. As we mentioned, it is a government program, community-based, poverty alleviation. So from the 100, we had to weed out early which one to qualify. But then we had almost 80 plus. So the question is, how do you select projects? Mr. mentioned 6, how do you select 6 or 10 projects from 87 projects? So the members of the committee, they had to go through the list and do some vetting. We have a criteria here that was given to us by the bank for the screening of projects. We look at things like, the impact on the community, what the community, community-based project relevance, is that in keeping with the government's priorities, So we had to go from, 100, we went to 64, we went to 32, we went to 16. And finally, there was a short list of 12 projects that went to cabinet for BNTF 10. And even then, because of the cost, when final costs were realized, out of the 12 which are approved by cabinet and those by CDB, we are now down to 7. It shows because the cost just skyrocketed. And as I just said, until we can be certain where the funds are coming from, the bank will not approve a contract. So we continue. So once the projects have been identified and vetted by cabinet, and they go to the bank, they have to go through what I call a rigorous appraisal process. The bank has to ensure that the project meets the criteria, and every expert at the bank, has the part to play. You have the education specialists, those in water and sanitation, those in access. You also have the social analysts, and and also the environmental specialists. So each of these persons at the bank, they have to, put their, they have the input, and then when everything is done and ready, that is when they give us approval. Yeah. So for starters, we have to request consultants for each project. A condition of the bank is that there must be independent consultants for every project. So as we mentioned that we are into 10, we are through that process. And soon we will do that for BNTF 11 once we have finalized the projects. But that process involves the office putting out notices in the media. Okay. Yeah. And then we have to get consultants. They have to prepare designs, documents. Yeah, we go to tender. And then the contractors, they give a response, and then the consultants they have to recommend what is referred to as the lowest evaluated bidder. These some fancy terms like, the most responsive and bidder. And only then, when the bank is satisfied with this, they give a no objection for the award of contract. And since as was mentioned before, the government has to pay VAT, so whenever we get the approval from the Caribbean Development Bank, we have to get the final approval from the Ministry of Finance. That is when the 15% VAT is added, and then once we get this letter from Ministry of Finance, we now call in the contractor so we can sign the contract. Yeah, and then work begins. So, that was really a synopsis of all what goes into BNTF. So we have done all that for BNTF 10. The same thing will happen for BNTF 11. And we are at the stage now, as was mentioned by our Honorable Minister, that we are actually implementing the projects. I will not go over all the details that the Minister gave because, yes, she explained all the projects and, what was being done for all the projects. And then, so we are at the stage now where we are really seeking to complete all of these projects by September 2025. We had some delays with the projects, but I want to say that, after a lot of effort, we are at the stage now, when we can safely say that, the projects are moving satisfactorily. And the office looks forward to the full implementation of BNTF 10. Let me see this. Some of the projects let's see. I think all the projects were mentioned. The minister ably mentioned it, so I will not go for them again. But just to give you a feel of a few of the past projects, under BNTF, because we just closed out, BNTF, the BNTF 9 program. So let me just highlight a few of the, again, very impactful projects, that we did for BNTF 9. And it seems that our minister is back in first again. We are the grant for storm drains. And then, and here the cost 1.19 million. So you see, there's a lot of money being spent on the project. Very impactful project, It has been in the pipeline for a long, long time, very long time. Miss, I'll tell you. But you see, these are the kind of projects, that we take pride in doing, because there was really that, the hazard of water flowing through the community, especially during the rainy season. And I know I saw this project on the BNTF 6, on the BNTF 7, the BNTF 8. And for me, the project I enjoyed, it was a relief when finally it was approved on the BNTF 9. And then all the members of the committee will tell you, well, they're very happy with that project. Grant for storm drain, 1.1 million. Those of us who have maybe passed at Canal Lane, maybe not recently, a couple of months ago, a couple of years ago, you have seen a transformation that took place at the office that houses the Dominica Association of Disabled Persons. You will see a big transformation. But it was this, you remember there was a co-house and there was an extension. If you go there now, somebody said, in local palace, that they went from a co-house to a mini hotel. But yeah. And how much is spent? 845,000. So it's a big spending. Yeah. Woodford Hill playing field. We have to upgrade, build a pavilion, 1.05 million. So we spend a lot of money. Castleborough Secondary School, production facility, chicken coop, slaughterhouse, 632,000. Dominica Community High School extension, you'll see that new block that was included. What's the cost? 1.29 million. So so we spend, so we've been spending. And then Montprosy water supply, 2.16 million. So so you see that so quite a bit of money has been spent on these projects. And then, one thing the bank focuses on is that you'd rather do, let us say, 7 or 8 projects and do them well, complete them in holistic, than to spread it over, say, 11, 12 projects and do piece of it. So the bank is all for not just doing a project, but doing a complete project, and they're very interested in function, because one of the words that they use is that whatever we build, it has to be functional and fully functional. Yeah. So that's where we are with BNTF 9, that we just completed. And as was mentioned, we are now looking into BNTF 11. Looking into BNTF 11. I just explained, the processes, So we have just started that process for BNTF 11. Identifying the process, identifying the projects, and then there are 2 important documents which have to be prepared by our BNTF countries. And the bank has already engaged a consultant, a social analyst consultant, Mr. McDonald Thomas, to undertake. One is called a country policy framework. That is really putting, placing BNTF into the government's bigger macroeconomic framework. So it's country policy framework. And the other one, which is required for all projects, is called a sector portfolio. For BNTF, there are 3 sectors that the bank approves for funding. You have water and sanitation. So you have upgrade of water system, new water systems, public, conveniences, etc. You have access and drainage, rural roads, retaining walls, And then you have education and human resource development. And there's a component that is called livelihoods. So in fact, the project that the minister mentioned, which is the Soufrious Cosset Fish Processing Facility, it comes under the category of livelihoods. What the thing it means is that these are projects that has the capacity to generate income. So the intention is that when this project will be completed, we'll see the fisher folk of Soufrious and Cosset benefiting. One thing, as mentioned, is that you see and even recently at one of our meetings, the bank is very concerned about, the plight of the youth and particularly single women, because studies indicate, that they fall within the, they are the poorer sector of society, But then the studies indicate that the youth and the single women, so the bank would welcome any project that, would impact positively on the lives of these people. And we see that in this upcoming Soufriere fish processing facility. And the bank is very interested in the project because of the capacity, the scope, and what it represents for the community, and the potential it has to generate income and increase the livelihoods of the persons of Soufriere. So that's where we are at the moment. Just getting set to go into BNTF 11. At this stage now, we cannot. The projects have not yet been approved, so we cannot say. We're just looking at projects now. Projects that meet the criteria. As was mentioned by our minister, that there is a team from CDB. They are arriving on island this afternoon, and they'll be for us for the week. Whenever there's a new phase of the project, before any project is approved, Bank, a mission comes to the country to get a feel of what it is like that you cannot. So they'll be here for us from this afternoon, and we have a packed program because it's going to be a visit to the ongoing projects on the BNTF 10 and to look at the prospective projects on the BNTF 11. So we prepared a very packed program for them, but that's part of the mandate. So they can be certain that when they are approving projects, the officer would have seen exactly what we're talking about on the ground. So the mission this week is a very important mission, to appraise, looking at the projects, and then of course when Mr. Thomas would have submitted his documents, the country policy framework and the sector portfolio, then the process will start. Then we'll get proper costings, and then we'll make a determination as to, based on the cost, how many projects we can safely implement. I mentioned briefly a while ago that based on the budget, the 12 projects that were initially approved by cabinet and those by the bank, we had to shrink them to 7 because of budget constraints. And so I could say the same thing may happen again. We just have to see what funds we come up with. But as I mentioned, the high cost of projects is making construction very, very high. But so we trust that when the bank comes, that the visit will be successful. They'll ask all the relevant questions, and that the intention is that before the end of the year, we should have a feel of what projects are going to be included in the BNTF 11 portfolio. By the end of the year also, we should have approval of the country policy framework and the sector portfolios, and then we can get into the process of engaging technical consultants, and then we'll start the designs and the other processes follow, like engaging of contractors and so on. So that, I don't say nutshell, but in summary, it's describes what BNTF is all about, what we've been doing over the years. And I hope this helps to gain more visibility for the project, because, as I said, persons say BNTF, but what exactly is BNTF? What do we do? How do we do it? So I trust that today's talk would give us a better feel of what BNTF is all about. Yes, so when you see the products, you can know, well, that's what BNTF is all about. Just as I wind up, I'll say, just recently, every now and again, persons meet me and they say, Mr. BNTF, and they would say things like, you remember the project you did? And even some project which I don't remember, but I'm saying all that to say that the impact has been created. And people still meet me, some at church, at the market, and tell me, that project you all did in Giroud, that project you did in, I'm like, really? And I remember. So the impact. And so we are the products, that's the last thing I'll say, may not be extremely high in cost all the time, but it is the impact they created. And just allow me to just give one story before I end. It's one story, a true project. On the BNTF 5, we had just about $30,000 left. And then the person's from a place in Paybush called Providence. Sorry, we had $15,000 left, sorry. And then they asked for a footpath, and that was all the money we had, $15,000. I remember that clearly. And we told them that all they can give is just a footpath at the time. They decided to work with us, and they said the BNTF could just pay the labor costs. They are prepared as a community to garner their support, work harder, and make it into a much bigger project. And I'll tell you, if today you were to go to Providence in Paybush, what initially started as a 4-foot wide footpath is now a motorable road. And some years ago, when the bank was the bank paid a consultant to do some of the impacts of BNTF, I specifically mentioned that project. And when we went to it, it was very encouraging after all these years, because BNTF I would have been now 10, 12 years ago, to see road well kept. And one thing for me what was the highlight was when I was told that on a few occasions, when persons were sick, an ambulance was able to drive all the way to many persons. So so when you talk about impact, that is what BNTF is all about. So we went from 15,000, and if we were to assess the project at the time, would have been about 60,000. The persons working for us and we accomplish. And where the figures seem small, but it's the impact. And today, it's the best. So, thank you. That's what we do. I hope I was able to address a lot of the BNTF in a nutshell. There's passion. We can talk a lot about BNTF, but I hope I gave a good grasp of BNTF. Thank you very much.
I do think that he gave a pretty solid explanation and insight into the workings of the BNTF. Thank you so much, Mr. Carrett. All of these projects, of course, implemented by the government of Dominica. Just a note for media who are here, the minister stated a cost for the Trafalgar facility. The cost is actually $634,750. $634,750, and I can provide that correction to you later. Okay, so at this point we've heard from the minister, we've heard from Mr. Carrett, and we do have some media representatives here, and I would like to invite you, if you have any questions, this is your opportunity. Yes, Mr. Richards, and welcome to our press conferences, Gavin.
Thank you. All right, good morning, everyone. Gavin Richards, DBS. I just have a question related to the Trafalgar facility. I know in the past, Trafalgar was one of the hotspots for basketball. The off-season leagues being ranked one of the top off-season leagues, and then since we've seen the demise of the court, Trafalgar has even lost their Premier League team in the National Basketball League. So I just wanted some more information on the facility at Trafalgar and how you think it will help rejuvenate basketball in the community.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were too Yes.
Yes, yes.
Gavin, do you have any other questions in mind? You can ask.
Not ready yet.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, we have Mr. George, project engineer, who will give us.
Okay, morning everyone. I think the protocol has already been established. So, just to answer the question, Gavin, well, we have played sports together for sure. I have played at the Trafalgar basketball in off-season league as well, back in my days. So, what it entails basically is a complete rehabilitation of the court surface. New rims. You're also going to have washroom facilities, change rooms, and also a media room, VIP area. So while the initial project spoke about an indoor facility, for budgetary reasons we could not undertake because the cost would have exceeded the ceiling of the BNTF program. So we'll be upgrading the court, new lighting, as I mentioned, a vending area as well for the community, and bleachers. We'll be rehabilitating the bleachers as well. So I think with that new look, we can expect more persons to come and start playing sports again at the facility. So it will be basically like a new court, painted with markings and everything. And also we'll be accommodating netball as well. So it will be the backboard and the nets that can rotate, so you can change spots. So I think it will encourage the young persons to return to playing basketball again in Trafalgar.
Well, thanks to Mr. George. Do we have any? Yes, Mr. Jacob, you have a question, please? Of course.
I just wanted to.
Sure.
Sorry. Sorry. You know, very importantly, I need to mention that for BNTF, all BNTF projects, we have a ceiling, you know, so if you can understand. The ceiling for BNTF, you know, as given by the bank, they said is 700,000 US. Because to about, 1.885 million is, so that's the ceiling, you know, so as Mr. Johnson saying, so anything above this, you know, unless we can get, say, other funding, the bank is into, like, fostering partnerships, you know, with other agencies, the banks, the utility companies, you know, but, you know, this has to be clearly defined, and in doing so, whatever the BNTF component is, it has to be much like a standalone. It has to be clearly marketed. So I just want to explain that, you know, that you have a ceiling. And just, because I know you're very passionate about Trafalgar, Mr. Evan, we spoke about the different costs, which brings it about in excess of 800,000, the lighting and the initial. What was initially approved for Trafalgar was 430,000. So you understand that the price has doubled. Yeah, okay, thank you.
General Jacob from GIS, you had a question?
First off, good morning. I recommend the government of Dominica, BNTF, for a number of projects undertaken in communities in Dominica and ensuring resilience in these communities and continuity, ensuring employment and livelihood for people. I do commend the BNTF for that work is done as you listen. But what comes to mind, in my simple mind, is the number of projects proposals that have been sent to the BNTF and government, 100, as you mentioned. Is there a need for community merger of projects, different community localities, or merging of projects, to ensure costs and and utilizing the monies sent from CDB, which is at a premium?
I think he means like one project could serve more than one community.
No, but okay, well, I think the best answer is that it depends on the nature of the project. Like for example, like when I spoke about the Mount Prosper water supply, you know, that water supply, would help to like the communities, close by, would benefit. But then for some of them, it might be difficult. For example, like the Granford storm drain, persons in Monja and River Syric, will not be, will not benefit. So it depends. So water projects, road projects, that serve, to aid communities, those type of projects, But then for some of them, it is not always possible, to merge because because of the nature of the project. We try as much as possible, and I say we and the government as much as possible, to look at what is considered the most critical needs, because the needs are many, and then what is done is that whatever cannot be done under one phase, transfers to the other phase. I mentioned BNTF 9 and all the projects that we did at Community High School and Mount Prosper. As a matter of fact, these projects, 90% of the projects we did under BNTF 9 were projects which were postponed from BNTF 7 and 8. And why is that significant? We had Tropical Storm Erica in 2015. At that time, a lot of these products were already at CDB for appraisal. When the tropical storm struck, what the bank does for all the countries, they ask the governments, in case of a disaster, to inform them if these products are still a priority, or if in light of the emergency, other products take priority. Following the passage of Hurricane Erica, government determined, and rightly so, that the rehabilitation of water systems was a priority. So that is why from BNTF 7 to BNTF 8, we did about 5 water rehabilitation, from Salisbury to Bagatelle, Marigot, Bagatelle, Belbishop, not Belbishop, so Botica, yeah. So as such, since that became a priority, all these products which were in the pipeline had to be put on hold. And the understanding was that these products would be transferred or deferred to BNTF 9 so that the government could undertake the greater priority, which happened to be water at the time. So this happens, And as you mentioned, we never have all the funds to implement all the products, but then upon the assessment and the criteria provided by the bank for sub-project selection, we look at the more critical needs and the others still. And just to say that, as we go to BNTF 11, the bank is encouraging, the partnerships. So we are seeking to see where we can partner with the private sector out there and be able to do more projects on the BNTF program. So I hope that addresses some of your concerns.
All right. Thank you, members of the media, for your questions. Thanks to the Honorable Minister and Mr. Carrett for speaking with us this morning and really going in depth about the BNTF program. Mr. Carrett is right that we do hear the term BNTF very often, but we often do not think about what it is exactly that they do. So I think this was all very insightful. We will continue to hold these press conferences focused on the work that the government of Dominica is doing across the country, across ministries, to improve the lives of our citizens. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you for those of you who have joined us. Have yourselves a wonderful week. Good morning.
Thank you.